As I was sitting there, Advocate, listening to your leader, Julius Malema, welcoming the president and talking about the things I would imagine were foremost or are foremost in the minds of you as the collective that leads the party. White monopoly capital. Is that the Vosho Eningenangayo this in the 6th Parliament?
Yes, of course, and I think one has to distinguish. You know, in politics there are certain protocols or conventions. If you are a participant in parliamentary politics, it is a courtesy that you have to congratulate the winner, because it's not even so much about the winner really, it's more about the people, because you have to respect the voice of the people. You might not agree with the outcome, but the point of the matter is that the people have made a decision. And one day when you are the ruling party, you will want your opponents to accept at least the legitimacy of the outcome. So that's one thing. But the second issue, of course, is that we, as opposition, you can't just be opposition for the sake of opposition. If there's convergence on a certain issue, maybe sometimes because of your own efforts, such as the land issue, you have to recognize that there's convergence and then capitalize on that convergence so that your own policies can be implemented. Because that's what it's ultimately about. Whether our policy on land, for example, is implemented because we are the government or it's implemented because we agree with the ANC, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, the policy will be implemented, which is what we want to see. That will be the same on free education and other things like that. So inevitably, there has to be that kind of collaboration, respecting the outcomes of the electorate. But coming specifically to your question, yes, of course, for us, remember, for us, it's different than the other parties. Because for us, our difference, the other parties will say, the ANC has got good policies, but they are not implemented well. That's because they all come from the same ideological school. They all believe in the market economy and so on. So they'll have differences here and there. Ours is a completely different ballgame because we are ideologically opposed to the ANC's stance, which is neoliberal, capitalist, and all the other parties, whether it's the DA, the UDM, the IFP, they all more or less believe in the same thing. So for us, the questions like the one you are raising of white monopoly capital, the proximity of a government or a president to capital is something that would inherently make us uncomfortable because it means it's easy for the state to be captured by white monopoly capital.
But if, the ANC, as you say, believes in capitalism, isn't it obvious that big business or white monopoly capital, as you call it, will feel closer to them and have conversations with them?
No, naturally. That's why we know that. It's not a secret.
But then where will you distinguish between what the ANC itself believes and what white monopoly capital believes if these people are from the same school of thought, basically?
No, you see, there is a distinction. Remember, what we are warning against is Ramaphosa's own proximity to white monopoly capital. That's one thing which we have to warn against. But remember that the ANC, for example, the ANC itself might have policies that are radical or even, let's take the question of the Reserve Bank, the nationalization of the Reserve Bank. The ANC has a clear policy on that. But that policy might not be implemented because Ramaphosa might be listening to the whispers of white monopoly capital. So it's our duty, A, to make sure that he doesn't take that stance, but secondly, that at the very least, at the minimum, he implements the ANC policy on that issue. So it's a nuanced approach. Of course, you are right that inherently the whole capitalism means basically that the real people who run the show is capital, and capital use the instrumentality of the state. They buy the state, so to speak, so that the regulations are capital friendly and so on. Whereas in our approach, it must be the people and the working class in particular that dictates, so to speak, what should happen. So if you like, the difference with their approach would be that you have economic growth and then it will trickle down to the masses one day by some magical wand. Ours is opposite. You must develop the bottom, and by developing the bottom, dealing with inequality, dealing with unemployment, you will, by that, expand the economy, and everyone, including capital, will benefit. So it's a completely diametrically opposed paradigm as to what should happen. For them, they believe inequality can be tackled by simply bringing in investors. But we're saying, no, you can't do that, because by bringing investors, maybe sometimes you might actually be exacerbating the inequalities. So yes, bring in investors, but improve the lot of the poor, improve the lot of increase education. Your taxation approach, for example, must be progressive. By that you mean that you must tax the rich more than the poor, so that the state resources can be evenly distributed. Theirs will be different. No, you must alleviate the tax burden from corporates so as to attract them. So these are ideological differences rather than simple policy differences. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Julius Malema has admitted in the past that he was once approached for a position within government. Were you approached this time around?
No, we were not. We were not approached this time around. And quite frankly, I think it's a much better position, because even if we were approached, I think the answer would have been the same. I think I said this to you before.
Why, though? Doesn't that change, given what you said only a week ago, that you are now prepared, for example, to run Tshwane? You are prepared to have MMCs in Johannesburg. How different is that from accepting a ministerial or deputy ministerial position in Cyril Ramaphosa's government?
Yes. No, it's completely different. It's chalk and cheese. As I said to you last time when we were here, we will only accept positions of power when the electorate has put us in that position. In other words, in Tshwane, for example, there's a hung parliament, right? And we are the kingmakers. So we will be able to leverage that power to demand anything we demand. In the national government, the outcome is completely different. So if we got a position there, it would be a favor from Cyril Ramaphosa's hat. We will not accept a position like that, where a position that can be taken or given at a whim of a particular person or a political party. Whereas there, you're bargaining. So in other words, if the outcome of the election had been, let's say the ANC got 48% and they needed us, then of course we would be able to bargain. But it's foolhardy to participate in a government when you have no leverage, because all you'll just be given Minister of Arts and Culture, nobody will ever listens to you.
Quickly, how are the negotiations going with the DA with respect to Tshwane and Johannesburg?
Well, the DA, we have engaged them even publicly, as you know, where we have said that the time has come for us to participate in government for various reasons. The ball is really in their court. If they can do it the nice way or not the nice way. The nice way is that we all agree that in the municipalities where we hold leverage of power, for example, I'm just making a hypothetical example, we could say to them, well, if you're going to have Joburg, we're going to have Tshwane, or vice versa, and so on. And again, that's because we can say so. It's not because we're asking for a favor. And it's up to them. If they say, let's talk about it, yes, maybe take Joburg because of this and that strategic reasons, that's fine. But if they say, no, we don't care, then we say, okay, well, then let's collapse the governments. Let's have fresh elections. Let's put it back to the electorate. And so it's an easy choice for them to make, again, because we can dictate one way or the other. If they say no, or we can't find each other on the table, then, well, the electorate must decide.
Okay, also going to leave it. Thanks very much for your time. The National Chairperson of the EFF, Advocate Dali Mpofu.